A broke college student paid for a stranger's coffee, not realizing the man was the dean of admissions. The words echoed in Ellie's mind as she stared at the campus newspaper headline, her fingers trembling slightly against the thin paper. How strange to see her small act of kindness transformed into a front-page story, complete with a grainy photo of her behind the coffee shop counter. Just 3 weeks ago, she had been nobody. Just another exhausted student drowning in debt, working double shifts while her academic dreams slowly slipped away. The memory of that rainy Tuesday morning washed over her like the storm that had battered the campus that day. The kind that soaked through shoes and chilled bones. The kind of day when the world felt heavy. Ellie had been working since 5 a.m. at The Grind, the small coffee shop tucked between the English and economics buildings. Dark circles hung beneath her eyes, evidence of the all-night study session for her midterm. Her textbook lay open beneath the counter, highlighted passages blurring as her tired eyes strained to absorb one more theory, one more concept that might save her failing grade. 2 more weeks, she whispered to herself, a mantra that had carried her through the semester. 2 more weeks until scholarship decisions. 2 more weeks to prove she belonged here, that the financial aid office should reconsider her case. 2 more weeks before she might have to pack her belongings and return home, her college dream abandoned halfway through her junior year. The morning rush had dwindled to a trickle when the door swung open, bringing with it a gust of rain and cold air. A man in his 60s with silver-streaked hair and kind eyes that crinkled at the corners stepped inside, shaking droplets from his coat. Something about him seemed vaguely familiar, but Ellie couldn't place him among the thousands of faces that passed through campus daily. "Terrible day out there," he said, his voice warm despite the weather. Water pooled around his leather shoes on the tile floor. "The worst," Ellie agreed, summoning a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "What can I get you?" "A large dark roast, please." "Black." He reached for his wallet, then patted his pockets with increasing urgency. "Oh, for heaven's sake." His face fell. "I've left my wallet in my other coat. I'm so sorry to have troubled you." Ellie glanced at the tip jar with its meager collection of coins. She thought of the $27.13 in her checking account, the electricity bill waiting in her apartment, the package of ramen that would be her dinner for the 3rd night in a row. And then she thought of nothing at all except the disappointment in the man's eyes. "It's on me," she said, already reaching for a cup. "Happens to everyone. I couldn't possibly—" "Please." The word came out more forcefully than she'd intended. Softer, she added, "It would make my day to do something nice for someone. The world could use more of that, don't you think?" He studied her for a long moment, eyes lingering on her name tag, then the textbook beneath the counter. Finally, a smile broke across his face like sunshine after rain. "Thank you, Ellie. That's very kind." She poured his coffee, wrapped a sleeve around the cup, and handed it across the counter. Their fingers brushed, and for a moment warmth spread through her cold hands. "Good luck with your studies," he said, nodding toward her textbook. "Economics is a challenging field. Worth it, though, if I can stay anyway." The words slipped out before she could catch them. His eyebrows lifted slightly, but he simply nodded. Sometimes the most worthwhile journeys are the most difficult ones. He raised his cup in a small salute. "Thank you again for the coffee." And then he was gone, the bell above the door tinkling in his wake, leaving nothing but the lingering scent of coffee and rain. Ellie returned to her textbook, the brief interaction already fading from her mind as she confronted the reality of her midterm, her dwindling bank account, her uncertain future. She didn't think about the silver-haired man again until 3 days later when an email arrived from the Dean of Admissions office requesting her presence for a meeting. Her stomach dropped. This was it. They were going to tell her about her scholarship appeal being denied. The official notification before they showed her the door. The dean's office was located in the oldest building on campus, a stone structure with ivy climbing its walls and history embedded in every creaking floorboard. Ellie's footsteps echoed as she walked the polished corridor, her heart hammering against her ribs. Her second-hand blazer felt suddenly too tight, too warm. The secretary, a woman with a kind smile and reading glasses perched on her nose, nodded toward a heavy wooden door. "Go right in, dear. He's expecting you." Ellie wiped damp palms on her jeans, took a deep breath that did nothing to calm her nerves, and turned the brass doorknob. Sunlight streamed through tall windows, casting golden rectangles across the oriental rug. Behind a massive desk sat the man from the coffee shop, silver hair catching the light. The dark roast she'd purchased for him sat steaming in the same branded cup from the grind. Recognition flickered across his face, then bloomed into a smile as he stood to greet her. "Ms. Chen, thank you for coming. I'm Dean Harrison." He extended his hand. "Though I believe we've already met under less formal circumstances." Ellie's mouth went dry. "The coffee shop. I didn't realize—" "Please sit." He gestured to a leather chair across from his desk. "I hope you don't mind, but after our encounter, I took the liberty of looking into your student file." The blood drained from Ellie's face. This wasn't just about her scholarship appeal. This was about her working during class hours, violating the terms of her existing financial aid. "I can explain," she began, her voice barely above a whisper. "Explain what? Why an economics major with a 3.8 GPA is working at 5 a.m. instead of sleeping?" Dean Harrison's eyes softened. "Or perhaps why that same student would spend what little money she has on a stranger's coffee." Ellie's gaze dropped to her hands, twisted in her lap. "It was just a coffee." "Was it?" He leaned forward, elbows on his desk. "Ms. Chen, Ellie, I've been working in education for over 30 years. I've seen thousands of students pass through these halls. The ones who succeed, truly succeed, aren't always the ones with the highest test scores or the most impressive resumes." He paused, reaching for a folder on his desk. "They're the ones who understand that education isn't just about what happens in classrooms. It's about character, compassion, the willingness to give when you have little to offer except kindness." Ellie looked up, confusion replacing fear in her eyes. "I'm not here to reprimand you," Dean Harrison continued. "I'm here to offer you an opportunity." He opened the folder, revealing paperwork with the university's embossed logo at the top. The Thompson Scholarship for Economic Studies. Full tuition, room and board, and a stipend for books and living expenses. Normally reserved for incoming freshmen, but I've spoken with the committee, and we've agreed to make an exception in your case. The room seemed to tilt beneath Ellie. "I don't understand. Don't you?" Dean Harrison smiled. "Your professors speak highly of your academic abilities. Your transcript shows remarkable resilience despite your financial circumstances. And then there's the matter of the coffee. You're offering me a full scholarship because I bought you coffee?" The words sounded ridiculous even as she spoke them. "No," he shook his head. "I'm offering you a scholarship because when faced with your own significant hardship, you chose kindness without hesitation. That coffee was more than a beverage. It was a window into your character." He pushed the folder toward her. "We need more people like you, Ellie. Not just at this university, but in the world." Tears blurred her vision as she reached for the folder with trembling hands. "I don't know what to say." "Say you'll accept. Say you'll finish your degree without worrying about choosing between textbooks and groceries. Say you'll continue to be the person who buys coffee for strangers, even when your own cup is empty." Outside the window, the campus stretched before her. The library where she'd spent countless sleepless nights. The dormitory she could barely afford. The paths she'd walked while wondering if each step might be among her last at the university she loved. "Yes," she whispered, the single syllable catching in her throat. "Yes to all of it." Dean Harrison stood, extending his hand once more. This time, when Ellie took it, her grip was firm with new confidence. "There's one more thing," he said, reaching into his desk drawer. He withdrew an envelope and handed it to her. "The position comes with a research assistantship in the economics department. Professor Abernathy specifically requested you. The details are all there." Ellie clutched the envelope to her chest, feeling as though she might float away if she didn't anchor herself to something solid. "Thank you. I promise I won't let you down." "I know you won't." His eyes crinkled with genuine warmth. "Now I believe you have a midterm to prepare for? Professor Liu's economic theory course, correct?" She nodded, surprised. "Don't look so shocked. It's my job to know these things." He winked. "Though I hear his exams can be rather challenging." "They're brutal," Ellie admitted with a small laugh, the first genuine one in weeks. "Then I won't keep you any longer." He walked her to the door. "Oh, and Ellie? The coffee shop. I hope you'll consider cutting back your hours. Focus on your studies." "I will." She paused at the threshold. "Thank you again, Dean Harrison, for everything." "Don't thank me. This wasn't charity, it was recognition of merit." His expression turned serious, and perhaps a reminder that sometimes the smallest gestures can change lives in ways we never imagine. As Ellie walked across campus, the scholarship papers tucked safely in her bag, she felt lighter than she had in months. The trees seemed greener, the air sweeter, the future suddenly vast with possibility. She stopped at the grind on her way back to her apartment. Her manager raised eyebrows when she requested reduced hours, but nodded understanding when she explained her new research position. When her shift ended, she withdrew a $20 bill, a significant portion of her last paycheck, and placed it in the tip jar with a note, "For the next person who forgets their wallet." A small gesture, a ripple in a pond, a beginning. Winter gave way to spring, and spring blossomed into summer. Ellie flourished under Professor Abernathy's mentorship, her research on economic inequality in urban communities earning recognition beyond the university. The stipend from her scholarship allowed her to move into a small but sun-filled apartment near campus, where plants lined the windowsills and books filled the shelves, simple luxuries that once seemed impossible. She still worked at the grind, though only one shift a week now. Something about the rhythm of the espresso machine, the scent of freshly ground beans, the warmth of cups passed from her hands to others grounded her, reminded her of where she'd come from, of how quickly life could change. On a particularly busy morning in September, as summer heat still lingered in the air, the coffee shop door opened to admit a young woman clutching a stack of textbooks to her chest. Dark circles beneath her eyes, clothes slightly worn at the edges, the anxious expression of someone counting pennies. Ellie recognized the signs immediately. "Just a small black coffee, please," the girl requested, voice barely audible above the hiss of the steam wand. "The cheapest one." She fumbled with a small coin purse, extracting crumpled $1 bills and counting out change with meticulous care. When she was 87 cents short, her face flushed with embarrassment. "I'm sorry," she began, already moving to put the money away. "I thought it was less." "It's covered," Ellie said, already reaching for a large cup instead of the small one that had been ordered. "And you look like you could use the extra caffeine. Midterms coming up?" Relief and surprise flashed across the girl's face. "How did you know?" "I've been there," Ellie smiled, filling the cup to the brim before sliding it across the counter. "What's your major?" "Pre-med. But I'm thinking of switching to education. I don't know if I can afford either, to be honest." The confession tumbled out, as if the weight of it had been pressing on her for too long. Ellie nodded, understanding perfectly the burden of dreams constrained by financial reality. "What's your name?" "Maya." "Well, Maya, let me tell you a story about a cup of coffee and the dean of admissions." As the morning rush ebbed and flowed around them, Ellie shared her story. With each word, she watched Maya's posture straighten slightly, saw hope kindle in eyes that had moments ago held only exhaustion. When she finished, Maya stared into her coffee cup as if it might contain some magical solution to her problems. "That's incredible. But lightning doesn't strike twice." "Maybe not in the same way," Ellie agreed. "But here's what I've learned. Kindness creates ripples we can't always see. And there are more people willing to help than you might think." She reached beneath the counter and pulled out a business card. "Dean Harrison holds open office hours every Thursday afternoon. He has resources at his disposal, scholarships, work-study positions, emergency funds that aren't always advertised." Maya took the card, holding it like it might disintegrate between her fingers. "You really think he'd meet with me? Just a random struggling student?" "I think," Ellie said carefully, "that people who have been helped often look for opportunities to help others. It's how the world keeps spinning." She gestured to the line forming behind Maya. "My shift ends at noon. If you want company on the walk to the administration building, I'll be here." Maya nodded, tucking the card into her textbook. "Thank you for the coffee and everything else." As she turned to leave, Ellie called after her, "Oh, and Maya? Whatever you decide, pre-med, education, underwater basket weaving, make sure it's because you love it, not because you think it's your only option." The girl's smile was small but genuine. "I'll try to remember that." Ellie watched her go, then turned to the next customer with renewed energy. The rest of her shift passed in a blur of orders and conversations, her mind occasionally drifting to her own journey and the unexpected turns it had taken. At noon, she untied her apron and hung it on its hook, not really expecting Maya to return. But there she was, waiting by the door, textbooks clutched to her chest like armor. "Ready?" Ellie asked, surprised but pleased. Maya nodded, determination replacing the morning's desperation. "I figure it can't hurt to try." Together they walked across the autumn-touched campus, fallen leaves crunching beneath their feet. Ellie pointed out shortcuts between buildings, mentioned professors known for their compassion toward struggling students, shared small tricks for stretching a tight budget. When they reached the administration building, Maya hesitated at the bottom of the stone steps. What if he doesn't remember you? Or doesn't care about my situation? Then we try something else, Ellie said simply. There's always another path. They climbed the steps together, entered the cool interior with its scent of old books and wood polish. When they reached the dean's office, the same secretary with the same kind smile looked up from her computer. Ellie! What a lovely surprise. And you've brought a friend. Her eyes twinkled behind her reading glasses. The dean just finished a meeting. Shall I let him know you're here? Before Ellie could answer, the office door opened and Dean Harrison emerged, silver hair now with slightly more gray than when Ellie had first met him. His face brightened when he saw her. Ms. Chen! Perfect timing. I was just about to email you about presenting your research at the Economic Policy Conference next month. His gaze shifted to Maya, taking in her worn textbooks, her nervous stance. Something in his expression softened with recognition, not of her specifically, but of what she represented. And who might this be? Dean Harrison, this is Maya. She's interested in learning more about the university's scholarship opportunities. Ellie placed a gentle hand on Maya's shoulder. She reminds me of someone I used to know. Understanding passed between them, quiet and profound. The dean extended his hand to Maya. I'm always delighted to meet Ellie's friends. Why don't you both come in? I believe I have some fresh coffee. As Maya stepped forward, her posture already straighter, her grip on her books less desperate, Ellie felt a warmth spread through her chest that had nothing to do with caffeine. This was why she'd stayed at the university even after receiving job offers that would have paid off her remaining student loans in a year. This was why she continued working one shift a week at the grind, despite her busy schedule. This was the ripple effect, one small kindness expanding outward, touching lives she might never even know about. Dean Harrison held the door open, gesturing them inside. After you, ladies. Over his desk hung a small, framed article cut from the campus newspaper. The headline was slightly faded now, but still legible. A broke college student paid for a stranger's coffee, not realizing the man was the dean of admissions. Ellie smiled at the familiar words, at how they had once seemed like the end of her story when they were really just the beginning. She caught the dean's eye, and he nodded slightly, acknowledging the full circle of this moment. As they settled into the leather chairs across from his desk, as he began explaining scholarship options to Maya with the same patience he had once shown Ellie, she thought about all the coffees she had bought for strangers since that rainy Tuesday morning, all the small kindnesses she had offered when she could, never knowing which one might change a life, either the recipient's or her own. Sometimes transformation didn't come in dramatic revelations or grand gestures. Sometimes it arrived in a paper cup, warm against cold hands on a rainy day. Sometimes it was as simple as saying yes to kindness when every logical reason suggested you should say no. And sometimes, just sometimes, it came back to you multiplied in ways you could never have imagined. Outside the window, new students crossed the quad, each carrying their own burdens, their own dreams, their own capacity for unexpected kindness. Ellie watched them, these strangers whose stories she would never know, and silently wished for each of them their own life-changing cup of coffee. The meeting with Dean Harrison stretched into the afternoon, Maya's future unfolding in possibilities rather than limitations. When they finally emerged from his office, the girl's eyes shone with something that hadn't been there before. Hope, yes, but also purpose. I can't believe it, she whispered as they descended the steps of the administration building. A work-study position in the education department, plus emergency funds to cover this semester's expenses while the scholarship application is processed. Ellie smiled. Believe it. And remember it, the next time you have the chance to help someone else. Maya nodded solemnly. I will. I promise. She hesitated, then impulsively hugged Ellie. Thank you. For the coffee. For everything. You're welcome. Ellie returned the embrace, then stepped back. Now go change the world, one small kindness at a time. As Maya hurried away toward her next class, Ellie remained on the steps, watching the campus bustle around her. Tomorrow she would return to her research, to her classes, to the increasingly clear path that stretched before her. But for now, she simply stood in the autumn sunlight, feeling the warmth on her face and the fullness in her heart. One cup of coffee, one moment of kindness, one life transformed, and the ripples, still spreading,